Hi guys, in this video we're going to talk about measures of central tendency and dispersion of univariate data. Let's start by talking about the values that describes the center of a univariate data. The first one is the mean, and the mean is the sum of the data divided by a number of data. The median is the middle value or the mean or average of the middle two values when the data is arranged in numerical order. Now let's talk about the values that describes the spread of the univariate data or dispersion. The first one is the range, and the range is the difference between the largest value and the smallest value, or the maximum value minus the minimum value. The second value that describes the spread is also the standard deviation. And the standard deviation measures the amount of variation or dispersion from the average. And the standard deviation sometimes is given the notation sigma to indicate standard deviation. So the smaller the standard deviation, the closer the data to the mean and the less variation we have in the data. The greater the standard deviation, the further the data from the mean and the more variation we have in the data. An outlier is a score that is way out of range in regard to other scores. Let's take a look at this example to find out what an outlier means and how it affects a set of data. So we have two identical data points, except for the first value, which is 65 on the left side, and the first value is 0 on the right side. So looking at the left set, we see that all of these data are close to each other. There is no value that you can describe as odd or way out of range. And if you look at the mean and the median for these data points, you'll see that the median is 84, the mean is 83.4, and that these two values are very close to each other. And when these two values are very close to each other like that, we know that we don't have an outlier. And that the mean is the best value to describe the center of this data. It's the best presentation of the center for a set of value. Now, for the set on the right, we have 0, and 0 is a value that you can describe as odd or way further away from all the other data points. And this value, which is 0, it's called the outlier, and it affects the mean of the data set. So in this data set, we'll find out that the median stayed the same. It did not change, but the mean changed, and it's 79 now. So that tells us that the best presentation for the center of this data set is going to be the median, because the median is not affected by the outlier, but the mean is. So the outlier is a value that is way out of range in regard to other values, and it affects the mean of the data point. When we don't have an outlier, the mean is the best presentation of the center, while the median is the best representation of the center when we have an outlier in the data set.
Now let's put all this information into practice. Let's take a look at the first example. In Mr. Paley's advanced calculus course, 15 students recently took a test. Their grades were as follows. So we have grades, we have 15 scores for 15 students in this example. And the first question is asking us to construct a frequency table for this data. Now the frequency table is going to help us organize these data points in a way that can help us put them easily in the calculator. So to create a frequency table, I need a column for the data point, and I need a column for the frequency. I'm going to leave the middle column for the tallies. I'm going to go through the points in order so I won't forget any of these data points. I have 74. That's one time. I have 95. I have 85. I have 90. I have 80. I have 80 again. 90 again. 74 again. 80 again. 85. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I have 90. And I have a 95. So the frequencies are 274s, 295s, 585s, 390s, and 380s. Now we're going to use the calculator to find the mean, the median, range, and standard deviation without doing the calculations by hand. So to put the values in the calculator, I need to hit the stats button. I need to put the values in the calculator. So I should go to edit. So hit enter. The data points are going to go in L1. So I'm going to put 74, 80, 85, 90, and 95. The frequency of each data point is going to be in L2. So I'm going to put the frequency list in L2. That's 2, 3, 5, 3, and 2. To run the stats to find the mean, median, standard deviation, and range, I need to hit the stats button again. Go to calculate. This is a one variable stats, so I'm going to choose one. So I'm going to hit enter. So I want to make sure that the data points are in L1. So list needs to have L1 in it because that's where the data points are. And then I want to make sure that the frequency column is in the frequency list right here. So I'm going to put L2 because I have frequency. If you don't have a frequency column and you're just putting the points, so this frequency list need to be empty. But because we have a frequency column here, we're going to put L2. And to put L2, I need to hit second 2. Now that I have my data points and I have the frequency, I can run the calculations. So all I need to do is to hit enter. And the first value that you will see is going to be the mean. And the mean always has an X with a bar at the top. And in this case, it's 84.87 if we round to the nearest hundredth. If you go down right here, you'll see the sigma sign for the standard deviation. So the standard deviation for this data is 6.28 rounded to the nearest hundredth. And then if we go down more, you will see the median. The median in this case is 85. And then to find the range, all I need to do is to find the minimum value and the maximum value. The minimum value is 74 and the maximum value is 95, and the range is 95 minus 74, which is going to be 21. And this is how you find these data using the TI-84 calculator without doing it by hand. Now we will put these values in here. We have the mean is 84.87. The median is 85. The range is 21. And the standard deviation is 6.28. Is there a score in Mr. Paley's class that is an outlier? If yes, what value? So let's go back and look at Mr. Paley's values. If you look at the values, you will see that the values are close to each other. There is no value that we can consider as odd. So I would say that Mr. Paley's class don't have an outlier. Okay, so no. Which value, the mean or the median, is a better measure of the average in that class? Because we don't have an outlier, the mean is going to be a better measure of the average in that. Now I want you to try and do number 2 by yourself.